This is 10 minutes to midnight GMT on the Khoodeelaar TV channel, continuing the IT tests but campaigning with original exclusive contents. And this is the last edition of the day, Monday, the 3rd of August 2020, and it is still during the week of the Eid al-Adha being observed across the UK and in Western countries. And this is an edition containing the updates, including updates on the statement issued by the Communist Party Morning Star, peripherally referring to Tower Hamlets Council as following the same agenda that big business is following of firing and rehiring staff. The Morning Star is showing its reluctance to actually tell the truth about Tower Hamlets Council's dysfunctioning, and it is only holding Tower Hamlets Council partially responsible, and the blame is being put at the door of the big business conglomerates that are firing staff and forcing them to offer themselves for rehire at worse conditions. Now, that is the item that is also covered in the so-called revolutionary left socialist workers. They too are reluctant to actually look at the truth about the corruption inherent in and embedded and exposed and deeply seated in the behavior of Tower Hamlets Council. And the coverage in the so-called building trade newspapers and news outlets about Robert Jenkins relaxing of the rules, as the Sunday Telegraph said, on building regulations, and terming it as terming the regulations as red tape, shows that Jenrick is not only not holding himself up as being responsible for the corruption links he had with the porn billionaire Dirty Desmond, but he's adamant that regulation is anathema to the economy. Now, this is the worst, nakedest form of laissez-faire, and it is absolutely a clear risk and a danger to the safety of people affected by the buildings, quite apart from the economic access or ability to have access to housing. The fact that the buildings will be constructed without proper scrutiny as to the safety is a danger to people of all income groups. And this is the wider context of the Tories' rules that have been exposed after the massacre of the Grenfell Tower residents. And we shall be talking about that in fuller editions later. Today we are talking about the actual criminality that has been focused on. Now, the question of crime and criminality needs to be examined objectively, and the weekend Sunday papers, especially the Mail on Sunday, carried a series of reports and updated versions about the treatment of two parents of a dying child somewhere in the northeast. It is believed to be in the Durham area. Both parents are NHS doctors themselves, and they were treated as criminals by the particular hospital that wanted their daughter to die. And this detail has been now acknowledged by Sky News and other outlets. And we shall be commenting in further detail, in fuller details, throughout the next coming days and weeks and months. What is the role of doctors and what is the role of police? Is the police being converted into an open force to compel killing a child? This is the reality that is coming across in the footage and in the reports that have been acknowledged by Sky News and some other outlets. We have yet to examine the role of the BBC, to what extent the BBC is admitting this as having happened. And if the BBC doesn't admit it yet, it can only be a result of the BBC's role as the propaganda agency for the current Boris Johnson fronted regime. And this regime is being put under severe pressure by all kinds of contradictory statements that various members of the government are making. And in the context of the spread of the coronavirus in London, the statement issued by Dr. Navarro, who is the World Health Organization chief for the World Health Organization, chief for the European area, as reported by the Evening Standard on Monday, the 3rd of August 2020. That interview by the Evening Standard with Dr. Navarro is the latest confirmation that, contrary to the publicity and the propaganda that the coronavirus is easing and it's disappearing or it's reducing, this is the opposite of the truth, because this Dr. Navarro interview actually contains clear warning that the virus is not only not going away, but it is actually spreading. And the Evening Standard has to list a number of London councils, London boroughs, where the incidents of the spread of the coronavirus are actually on the rise. And it obviously includes inner London boroughs, including Tower Hamlets, Newham, Hackney, and others. But all over London, the virus is spreading and it is refusing to go. Yet, on the London transport system, there has been evidence that they are not really enforcing the strict regulatory demand on passengers that they should actually wear face masks. The notice on London transport system asking people to wear face masks has been removed in most cases. The only thing that has been left on is to keep the distance. Now, that must be to do with Sadiq Khan capitulating to Boris Johnson and asking Transport for London to remove the face mask compulsory notice that was all over the place, but it has disappeared during the weekend. And it has to be restored and it has to be vigorously enforced if people are going to be having any safety at all in the traveling and in the use of the public transport in travels. The other failures of Sadiq Khan in regulating and properly supervising the London transport is evident on the buses. The behavior of the bus drivers to many passengers at night, hailing the buses and the passengers being ignored by buses, as happened in Chris Street Market yesterday between 11 local time and midnight local time on Sunday, the 2nd of August 2020. A number 15 bus going to Blackwall stopped at Chris Street Market when a person hailed it, and it slowed down and then it sped away. It was like the driver, who looked like either African or Asian, was playing a game at the expense of the passenger whom they left there stranded. So that is Sadiq Khan's failure to safeguard the passengers on the London transport system. And this is the kind of failure that has been echoed in the Evening Standard's editorial on Friday about Sadiq Khan failing Londoners and not showing any initiative and only focusing his energies on the funding role of the central government. I personally have noticed this and have observed that the local councils, of course, are genuinely concerned about lack of funding or reduced funding by the conservative government. That is a factor, no doubt about that. But that is not the only factor. It affects every part of the service that the funding has to or is supposed to help deliver. And the delivery accountability has to be by the borough, on the borough, and on the Transport for London, on the other services that Sadiq Khan gets fundings from central government for. And this is something that is typical of the elected post holders in boroughs like Tower Hamlets. We have been talking about all of these issues and we shall be continuing in the next edition. Until then, this is midnight, just midnight, into Tuesday, the 4th of August, 2020. Khuda Hafiz, good night.